Hi, and welcome to the very first episode of the Self-Pub Comics podcast. I am your host, Joseph Oliveira. I'm the creator of a series called Ghost Island. Issue 1 and Issue 2 are currently available to buy at afterlightcomics.com. Now, we have a great first episode to get on with. Our very first guest, Danial Farrand. He was a pleasure to talk to, and he had a lot of great advice on publishing and his journey, self-publishing of his own comic series, The Untold, and his current live Kickstarter, The Fourth Monkey. We had a great chat about that as well. If you're listening on the YouTube channel, we have a podcast as well. If you can't, people are busy. You don't always have all the time in the world, so you have to listen on the go. We've got a podcast for you to listen to as well. We're on the iTunes store or whatever you thing is. You'll find us on a podcast. So if you type in Self-Pub Comics. And if you're listening to the podcast, we also have a YouTube channel where we have additional tutorial videos on self-publishing and convention vlogs as well. Just more advice and info and experiences to share. So, without further ado, let's get into the very first episode of the Self-Pub Comics podcast. Hello and welcome to the Self-Pub Comics podcast, the podcast designed to help and inspire others by talking self-published comics and discovering the creators behind them. I'm excited to announce our very first guest to the show. He is the writer behind the horror series, The Untold, and the creator behind the upcoming Anthology coming to Kickstarter, The Fourth Monkey. Welcome to the show, Danial Farrand.
How are you doing, Joey? All right.
I'm good, man. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good, man. Well, I'm very happy to have you on the show as the very first guest.
Yeah, honoured to be the first guest.
So I'm just going to dive straight into it and talk about your first published comic, The Untold, because this is probably... I've been reading indie comics for like the last year now, and it stands up there as one of the most darkest comics I've ever read. Would you like to tell the listeners, what the Untold series is about?
Don't know if to take that as a compliment or not.
Oh, it's a compliment.
Yeah, it'd be the darkest. Yeah, so it has its dark moments. It's basically the story. I'm going to gloss through it real nice and quick so we don't kind of spoil anything. It follows a young girl called Alice. She grows up with her grandfather. They're really close. They're inseparable. He raises her. And when she gets to the age of 8, he basically just disappears from her life, just vanished without a trace. Now, she asks her parents, she gets the same blanket answer to every question she gives. They basically say, he loves her, but he's a very poorly man. Now, at the age of 18, she persists, and eventually she breaks her dad, and he tells her that her grandfather's been in an insane asylum. Now, naturally, an 18-year-old girl, she didn't know where he was. She wants to go and see him. Now, when she visits him, what she finds is the same man that she remembers. He's no different. He's out of place to the kind of craziness that's going on around him. But while she's with him, she starts to see the apparitions of a kind of really disfigured demon. Now, this demon starts to show these visions, and the visions start to kind of unlock the reasons as to why he's there. And that's kind of where we're gonna leave it. So we're gonna find out kind of where that goes in the next few issues.
So you say next few issues. How many issues is actually planned for this series?
So we're going to do 4.
Cool.
4 is the plan, and then once we know, kind of gauge the popularity, I'd like to do more. I've probably got 3 arcs, so 3 sets of 4 lined up. But we're going to just sort of gauge it as we go, and hopefully we've got the following to carry it on.
Yeah. Well, you certainly had the following for the second Kickstarter that you had for Untold. You successfully funded that recently, didn't you?
yeah, I think both of them did better than I ever really could have expected. They blew me away. You know, we think we can't remember the exact figures off the top of my head, but I think it was like 3,600 and maybe 3,004 or something like that. So they're real nice figures. You know, we're getting enough to make them how I want them making. We're not having to kind of cut back and scrimp and, you know, take bits out. I get to do what I want.
Yeah, that's I guess that's as well the pluses of being a self-published comic as well. You know, you don't have to pull no punches, and you certainly don't with the Untold.
I was going to say, I think any comic where the C word is used within the first maybe four pages, it kind of sets the tone of what it is. I was probably a little cautious of using it early on, but I think it kind of fits what's happening.
Yeah, the tone.
Yeah, it fits the tone of it. It's not kind of misplaced, I don't think.
Oh, as I've said, it's a very dark story. I'm interested what inspired such a dark story within you.
So basically, I've always had kind of an interest in serial killers, as weird as that might sound. It's probably another thing you want to admit live on the podcast.
You'd be getting a knock at the door in the morning.
So, but particularly, I've been interested in how people are able to kind of live a very normal life whilst also having this kind of hideous other side to them. In particular, kind of like Ted Bundy. So Ted Bundy was known to be kind of very, very charming. He did well with the ladies. He was, you know, a really popular member of society. But on the other hand, he's one of the most notorious serial killers to ever exist. You know, he was a horrible man. And that kind of, so I think it's malignant sort of narcissistic sociopath that kind of just has that ability to just flip and change between the two. I've always found really kind of interesting. That's what we tried to bring to Untold.
What I found with the Untold, I thought it was very psychological as well. It feels like you're going into the minds of, you know, the characters of in the comic as well.
That's hopefully the goal. That's what I'm looking for, to try and not just have visuals, have the, you know, the kind of unease of what the people are saying, and when it starts getting, especially the next couple of issues start to get even a little bit darker, if that's possible. And that hopefully start to play with people's minds a little bit as well.
When you say it's getting dark, I'm like, Jesus Christ, though.
Yeah. You have to leave the light on at night when you read it.
Oh, yeah. So, you decided to self-publish The Untold. I'm interested to know, did you think about approaching publishers with the idea first before you wanted... Well, go even further back. What made you decide to publish a comic of this idea?
To be honest, I didn't start reading comics until I was like 18. No, sorry, even later than that, probably 20, 25 maybe. So it was kind of a late thing in life I got into.
Yeah.
And I've always been a big fan of horror. And I think probably the same with you, like probably why you made this hat. Make horror great again. And I think that hat probably sums up the exact reason why I made The Untold.
Right.
And probably why you maybe got into Ghost Island, because horror for me has always been a huge love, but the last kind of decade probably, it just seems to have taken a huge dive in the quality of story, I think is what it is. I think we've seen the rise of what people call gore porn, and you know, the kind of whole, like the Human Centipedes, your Serbian films, like these films that are kind of
shock, isn't it? Yeah.
They're just made to be as gruesome and as horrible as possible. And whereas we kind of have that in the Untold, we try to put it with a storyline, and a strong story at that, not just kind of shock for the sake of it. Everything has its place. So I think that kind of annoyance in the genre was what initially drove me. I was like, well, you know, I love horror. I can probably do something about it. How hard can it be to make a comic? Which ultimately I found out extremely hard.
Yeah.
Probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
So I was going to lead on to that. So self-publishing your comic, you say, it's a pretty hard game. Did you think about going to a publisher first, or did you just go gun-ho, I'm going to make this comic by myself?
I'll be honest that I was so naive when I started with this. I thought I was going to write this comic, write the first issue, get some art done, send it to Image. They were going to publish it, and it was just going to be... And that's probably what I thought. I was just, like I said, I'd never done anything like this before. I was a plumber, plumber's trade. I'd never done any sort of creative writing before. So I kind of just had these visions of grandeur where I thought I was going to just take it really easy, and it just wasn't like that. You have to... It's a lot of hard work to self-publish, because you're not just the writer anymore. You're having to organise everybody. You're going to have to bring everything together, pay for everything up front. Mm-hmm. It's a tough old deal, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, well, what would you say has been the most challenging experience with self-publishing, say with the Untold?
Without a doubt, artists. And I have no disrespect to artists, because they're extremely good at the job, but I had before I found the artist for the first issue, I had two separate artists that both kind of let me down and left me slightly out of pocket, mm-hmm. which was a little bit disappointing. I found Johannes, who did the first issue, and which he's done a really good job. I can't say a bad word about him, but again, then we kind of had issues that meant they couldn't sort of follow on to the second one. So then I had to go back to the drawing board and find somebody else that had a similar style, but also could have his own stamp, which where I found Chris. And I'm really, really happy with Chris. What he's producing for the second issue is, outstanding. So hopefully, fingers crossed, I can actually hold on to this one.
Yeah. So how have you gone about finding your artist? Then you mentioned that you've found Johannes as well.
So Johannes came from, I think there was a website called Freelancer, and I looked on there and I knew I wanted to make a comic and I had a script, so I just kind of messaged around, asked for people to send me a few bits and pieces of what they've done, and Johannes is particularly stand out. Like, I mean, you can see from the first issue, for anybody that reads it, that he's a very good artist. He's very good at what he does. So his artwork stood out, amongst the crowd straight away, and I knew that I had to kind of get him involved. And he's a nice guy. When we spoke, we had a Skype chat, told him the visions, told him where I wanted to go with it, and he understood it, and we kind of clicked, and it went really well.
Good.
Until the end, until we started the second issue.
I think that's a key ingredient. When you find your artist, you send them the script. I think they have to actually enjoy the script as well, because that's going to add a lot to your story. It's going to bring out all the key elements of it. And I just think, as I say, if you can strike up a good working relationship with them, like you've got a series yourself, you want to have that consistent art throughout your series, don't you? It's otherwise it'll stand out. I mean, you've had it's been quite an easy blend from issue 1 to issue 2, because they're quite similar styles, aren't they, Untold?
Yeah, so Chris has done a great job of, I think his style kind of matches, and we've done a good job blending. That was kind of one of the big issues I had once we kind of found out Johannes couldn't carry on with the second issue. I was absolutely gutted on the fact that I didn't want to let the fans down in just swapping artists and it kind of unraveling and being messy. So I, meticulously tried to choose somebody who I knew could do justice to the quality that Johannes had done before.
He certainly does, yeah. And you touched on Freelancercom. I used that website as well to find the artist for Ghost Island, Annabella Tolioni. I think if people are looking for an artist for their own comics, I think Freelancer.com is actually underestimated tool, because I don't hear many. You're the first person I've heard say you found an artist through there. I mean, for people
Same with you, to be honest.
Yeah, for people that don't know what Freelancer.com is, it's like a place where you can submit your project. You can submit like your idea and say, like Daniel says, you've got a comic idea. People then can bid on your project to say how much they would do your project for, basically. So you get all these bids ranging from thousands of dollars to like $12 to different countries saying they'll do your 25-page full color comic for $12. So, you get silly bids. You have to go through a lot of that. But I would definitely recommend Freelancer.com to anybody that's trying to sort out an artist at the moment.
Yeah, I also just want to touch back on what you said about the artist having to like the script and like the story, because that was one thing that I kind of pushed onto Johannes and onto Chris, and on the other projects I'm doing, I've always kind of said to the artist, please don't take the job just for the for the money side. Obviously, I like their art, but please don't just take it because you want to get paid. Because I truly believe that artists gives the best work when they kind of believe in the project as much as I do, or as much as you would with Ghost Island. You want them to have that same love, and obviously it's not going to be exactly the same because it's not their baby, but you want them to have that kind of same passion for it to do well, and not just kind of be taking the paycheck.
Yeah, definitely. I mean that's really good to hear from yourself, saying asking the artist, do you actually want to do this project, rather than because I'm sure a lot of people would just take the money and
that's it. Exactly.
You really like that artist, you'll just throw all the money at them and take the money and run.
That's it, and they could just be rushing through the page. And I think it's the same with anything you do in life. If you enjoy what you're doing and you believe in what you're doing, then you're going to give a better quality product than kind of like, I'm just getting paid for this, on to the next.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, that adds some soul to the project as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's it, exactly.
So I'd like to talk about your next upcoming Kickstarter. The Fourth Monkey, it's called, and it's an anthology. Would you like to talk about what it's about? Yeah.
So the Fourth Monkey is basically, the title is from the old ancient proverb, the three monkeys. So you've got hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil. Now, in our case, the fourth monkey is the outspoken one. He's the one who doesn't shy away. He doesn't kind of turn a blind eye. He doesn't not say anything. He doesn't not hear anything. He kind of speaks out, and he's the one that's different. And I kind of see that as a metaphor for us as a creative group. So what we're doing with the anthology is we've brought together a series of indie creators, and we're trying to raise awareness around particular issues that we all find close to ourselves. So we've got alcoholism, suicide, internet trolls, poaching, the water pollution. So we've got some pretty dark issues on there. Now we've tried to kind of have some light moments in there as well. It's not kind of all doom and gloom, but it was just something that I particularly wanted to create because I felt like at this point I'd taken so much from like the comics world. I mean, you know what it's like. It's like it's a community. Yeah. It's a comics community. People will always help you out. They're willing to bend over backwards to help you out, sometimes even at their own expense. So I wanted to try and give something back and kind of bring together and just create this project that would kind of just raise awareness around some issues that maybe people don't always talk about or aren't always aware of, and just try and do something good, kind of raise. I mean, it's completely a different tone to the Untold. It's trying to do good rather than the worst kind of evil.
Well, that's I think that's a really cool idea, to use this medium to talk about important issues. Whereas like people wouldn't necessarily talk about the issues. If they find it on the internet, it's a comic in front of you. This is pretty important issue. Can you talk a little bit about your story?
Okay, so I'm an animal lover beyond everything else. We've got our own little zoo. We're just, well, not an actual zoo, but a collection of animals we've gained over the years and rescued. So it was important for me. A lot of my kind of small sort of short stories tend to revolve around animal-based issues. So the one for the fourth monkey is about poaching, and in particular the African wild dogs. So they tend to be more of a maybe a lesser known animal in regards to awareness for poaching, because they're not kind of like your lion, your elephant, your giraffe, or the kind of big synonymous ones that people want to protect. They're kind of the lower level, but they are very much endangered. They're hunting for the meat, and they get caught in a lot of snares, and they're an incredible animal. I think they're one of the only one. Actually, I'm not going to say any facts and misquote myself.
Yeah.
But they're certainly on a very kind of close to the edge. The numbers have been dwindling over the last few years.
Cool, man. I'm looking forward to seeing your story as well.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's something that means a lot to me, and I did a lot of research for it, but it just seemed to have all fallen out of my head right now.
It's all good, man. So you talked about making a comic, self-publishing a comic, with the Untold being a really hard process. Yeah. How does that compare to actually being behind an anthology, which involves a hell of a lot more creators, writers, artists? How does that all compare? Easier, harder? Honest,
there's probably more work in the anthology, but it's been a little easier. I mean, early on, I realised how big it was, and one of the people I invited was James E. Roche, who does Wretches. Now, early on, I kind of spoke to him and asked him if he wanted to co-create it and come on board and kind of give me a hand, and that's been a huge help, because I think on my own it would have maybe been too much, or it would have been next year before we saw it. But I think it's the fact that kind of I'm able to outsource to all the different creators. It's not, whilst you kind of have to play the puppet master and kind of keep everyone in check, you're not having to necessarily do too much actual legwork yourself. You can kind of leave everyone to it, especially the quality of creator we've got on the project. They're all know what they know what they're doing. They've done this kind of stuff so many times before that you just kind of wind it up and let it go,
So you talked about the quality of the creators. Did you handpick creators to join the anthology series? Yeah. How many creators is involved in this anthology then?
So we've got 8 stories. So I mean, we've got 16. So you've got 8 writers, 8 artists. Then you've got HDE, who is doing all the lettering on the book as well. So yeah, I had picked all the creators to start with, because obviously it was before I got James involved. Now I kind of looked down my list of people that in the indie community I particularly admired or looked up to. So we got people like Bob Saleh and Russell Nolte were the 2 kind of main ones I kind of that I was already looking up to, kind of from my position of starting out, and looking at these 2 guys, just to name a few, that were kind of where I wanted to be within the next few years. So just reached out to them and explained what I wanted to do. That I wanted to, write an anthology that tackled some tough issues, asked them if they had any, in their own lives that they felt close, felt that they would like to tell. And thankfully, everyone that I asked was kind enough to get involved and like the idea.
Oh, well, that's really cool that you say about you looked up to these artists and creators as well, and now you're actually producing a comic with them. That must feel pretty good.
Yeah, it feels good. It does feel good. I mean, because I'm not shy to admit that sometimes you need help with things, and there's probably been many a time where, like I say, just to name the 2 that stand out with Bob and Russell, where when I was doing the Untold 1, I was like probably the annoying new kid on the block that didn't know very much, and I was like messaging them on Facebook messages, look, what would you do about this? How do you do this? And I was probably that annoying kid that needed the help, and they were always kind enough to take time out of their day to say, do this, do that. So it was kind of like I wanted to try and give them something back, hopefully, as well.
Yeah, awesome, man. How many pages is the book? Do you know?
Without checking exactly. I think it's 126.
120. Wow.
So we've got a few kind of back map page in there. We've had some really cool pin-ups and prints done by some really top artists that we're going to slide in there as well and kind of fill the book out.
Awesome. Massive project then.
Yeah, it's like I say, I couldn't have done it without James. He's been incredible with kind of, especially kind of setting up the Kickstarter side of things. He's taken a lot of work off me.
Awesome, man. So how does it work? I don't really know much about Anthology, so how does it work in terms of other creators and artists? Do they, distribution-wise, do they get to publish the book as well, and they, have their own copies and sell them at conventions, or how's that?
So we own the rights to print the anthology as a whole.
Right.
So it'll be between me and James. We kind of own the anthology as a whole. Now, I don't know how other anthologies work, but how I wanted to work was that all the creators own their own work. So every writer owns the story, and they can feel free to use it, because we're not necessarily trying to make money from this anthology. We want to do a good issue. Then it was important that all the writers could own their story. They could use them in future anthologies or their own anthology of their own work, or do whatever they wanted with them, and allow them to keep ownership of them.
Cool. What would you think about doing it? I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. The first issue's not done, but is there scope to do more anthologies with other creators of the same series, Fourth Monkey style? Is it a different realm?
Without a doubt, that's the dream.
Yeah.
The overall dream is eventually to get it to a point where we can start to give to charity from it. That's the ideal situation. Now, we're not kind of in that position yet, because we've got to create something, and I'm not going to ask people to work for free, because, as you know, there's not much money in the indie comic scene. So you've got artists, and they rely on this to eat and eat and live. So everybody is getting paid, but eventually we want to grow it to a size where we're able to take a lump sum, and one of the issues from the book, go to a charity that kind of is around that issue and say, here you go, this is from the indie comics community. And that would be the dream behind it.
That's a brilliant idea, man. I hope
thank you.
It can come to some fruition in that way, it gets popular enough to get to that level.
Hopefully, that's, like I say, we'd like to just keep doing one every year, and probably learn from this one and just make it into an annual thing. I mean, we've had quite a few people already messaging us saying, look, we like the idea, we've got a story to tell, can we get on? And we've had to turn a few people around and say, look, hopefully we can come back next year and you can be involved. It's just at the moment that's the dog setting off, because they've just seen their mum turn up at home. So that's the dream. That's what we hope to do.
Cool, man. So this podcast will be live during the Kickstarter campaign, but what's the actual start date for?
The 12th.
The 12th. 12th of September. So, how much? What's the target for Kickstarter as well? The goal?
So we're just trying to work that and get it nailed on exactly, but we're looking at it's probably going to be about $8,500.
Cool. So
it's a fair old amount. It's a lump compared to what you need for a single issue, but we think it's well worth it. We hope that with the quality of creators we've got on there, that we can really kind of hopefully tap into their following as well as mine and James's, and really push it out there.
I think that's what it's about as well, really, when you're doing a Kickstarter as well. It's reaching out to other creators to share with their followers as well. And it's a big indie scene community, they're all together kind of thing. But do you find it hard trying to find, with Untold comics, did you find it hard trying to find like a readership? So instead of just sharing with other comic creators, how did you find horror readers or horror lovers? Did you find that difficult?
I did. I started out kind of just hitting the horror groups on Facebook, and just probably spamming them every single day with different posts. And when I had a few people kind of in my friends list who were kind of into the horror, kind of not necessarily comics, but horror writers. So I managed to get their help. There was a girl called Pippa Bailey who ran the Goal Guides. I think you may have come across her before.
Yeah.
And she was a huge help. You know, she kind of threw it out there and got it to their followers as well. So that was real nice and especially with the first issue, was a huge help.
So the convention circuit, are you coming? I think you're at Thought Bubble next, is it?
Yeah. So we've got Thought Bubble. We're doing Cardiff in a couple of weeks and the MCM Birmingham. But as you know, I also run a drinking horns business, so which is why this fits in very well. So we sell the drinking horns and take the comics and sell the two, which is what allows us to kind of do the bigger, more expensive comic cons that indie creators sometimes maybe don't really want to fork out for.
Cool, man. So you'll have the Kickstarter live when this podcast is on, so you should go check that out. We'll leave the link in the description for that as well. One last question, Dan. I would like to know, what is the one thing you wish you'd known before you self-published your first comic?
To be honest, just how hard it was. Like I said earlier, I touched on earlier, that I was just so naive, I was so green, that I kind of thought it was just gonna not be easy, because I would just be disrespectful to the comics community, but I just didn't realize how hard it would be, and how you're not just the writer, you are the creator, and you have to organize everything, especially with a Kickstarter. You know, you have to meticulously plan the funding, and getting different prices for the printing, getting the artists together, finding a letterer, an editor, and kind of just all these little things that you just don't even know to look for until you start kind of diving into the minefield.
I hear you on all of those fronts.
Yeah, but I mean, you know as well, we're all learning from issue to issue. I'm sure you learn tons from the second issue compared to the first, and so on and so forth. You'll probably learn of a lot more, or change a lot more for the next.
We're all learning, aren't we? I mean, I hope that's what this podcast shares as well. Some tips with other people, and hopefully inspires other people as well.
Hopefully, because I kind of see myself as, I don't think I could have come from any further away from kind of being a comics writer or an indie comics creator. Like I say, I was a plumber by trade. I'd never done creative writing, and I just kind of had this dream to make one, and I promised myself I wouldn't stop until I had the first issue made, and being a stubborn Yorkshireman, that's what I did. And so hopefully I'd like to hope that I could inspire at least one person who thinks they can't do it to just at least just have a go and just talk to people. If they ever get stuck, Daniel Farrand on Facebook, feel free to just send me a message, and I'd help anybody out with anything that they ever wanted. It's like, thankfully I've had people that did that for me.
Well, Dan, I know from personal experience, you've certainly got the drive, you've certainly got the passion, and they're all the key ingredients to really get through the self-publishing process, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
So, finally, where can people find you on social media? Hook you up. You say on Facebook, Daniel Farrand, or have you got Twitter, Instagram?
Yeah, so Twitter, I just changed my Twitter handle because I'm useless. It's Daniel_Farrand1. So that's going to find me on Twitter, and then you've got Daniel Farrand on Instagram as well. But like I say, find me on Facebook. You're going to find the Untold page. All my social media details are on there as well.
And if people want to get hold of Untold comic, where can people find it?
I was going to shout this out if you didn't ask. So Comixology is going to be the easiest place to grab the first issue. Go on Comixology, just type Untold #1 in the search bar, and it's going to come up there. It's $1.99, and I think it's worth $1.99.
Most definitely. I thoroughly recommend it, and make
Thank
sure
you.
you read it with the lights on as well.
That's it.
All right, thanks a lot for joining us, Dan, and good luck with the Kickstarter. We'll leave all the links for Dan's social media and Kickstarter for the fourth monkey that starts on September 12th, and we wish him all the best, and hopefully you can support him as well. Thanks, Dan.
No problem, man. Thank you.